Well, welcome to the Get Fit with Jodelle podcast. I am, as usual, Jodelle, and I'm feeling a little blue today, but in a good way. I'm wearing blue, and I took my blue today, my methylene blue, and I'm geared up to talk all things methylene blue for you guys today, plus some other stuff. But before you click off this podcast, because you're not sure what methylene blue is or why you need to listen and learn, let me just say this about this compound. It's a magic bullet if there ever was one. I have so much anecdotal evidence as to how it's helped myself, my family, and even some clients with cancer. So you're definitely going to want to listen in, because I brought on somebody who I consider an expert in methylene blue and also a very awesome formulator and founder of LIfeBlud, the company where I purchased my methylene blue from, because I've tried a lot of other companies. And this is the one where I found is the purest. So Adam Marafioti is the founder of LIfeBlud, which happens to be my favorite brand. And like I said, I've tried other brands. You know, I love Georgi Dinkov's and his oxidal, but it contains caffeine. So it's only good for a certain population and time of day. And then I like Dr. Lieurances forms and suppositories, but not everybody's going to go up the exit ramp, right? But what I love is just the pure drops of methylene blue, and where I'm going to get that and where I'm going to show you guys the best quality is LIfeBlud. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But we've got so much more to dive into, because it's not just about methylene blue. I want to talk magnesium today and the importance of it, and also something called the energy restoration process, which is really fascinating. And yeah, so Adam, this dude is a lifelong learner just like myself, and a true kindred spirit, because Adam, you know what? I heard you talk on a different podcast about how you don't watch TV and you wind down by learning and diving into books and research and listening to podcasts. And that's my bag too.
Yep.
So I get a lot of flack from my friends about how I don't, do the typical like Netflix and chill, and they get on to me because I don't read like fiction novels. I'm always got my nose in a nutrition book. Like I'm reading Morley Robbins' book on copper right now. And they just think that's weird, but it's nice to find somebody who gets me, so, so welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate the kind words. It's difficult when people hand out movie references and TV references, but I think, I think we are on the right path for sure. And I've definitely fallen asleep to a repeat interview in your podcast for sure. Yeah, so thanks for that.
Very soothing, isn't he, when he speaks? So you can definitely relax to repeat. And yeah, anybody who's a repeat follower is a friend of mine. So yeah, he's a very awesome guy. So speaking of learning, you love learning. I'm excited to talk to you about your company, LIfeBlud, which I got to tell you, I'm so impressed with. I found for you guys a hidden gem on the World Wide Web of thousands of supplement companies, because this guy is doing it how I would do it if I had my own supplement line. Your magnesium has glycine in it, which we're going to talk about, and it's very hard to find that. Your B vitamin has benfotiamine, which is brilliant, by the way, and it should be in every B vitamin. Mm-hmm. And your methylene blue, I've noticed more benefits since taking yours than all the other brands combined. So Mitolab, Idealab, Science.bio, everything in between, I've tried it. So now that I've ranted long enough, let's talk all things methylene blue and a few other things too. So I kind of want to start though with your energy restoration process on your website, which again, bar none, most brilliant, easy to read page on a website I've read in a long time. It should be a book, but it doesn't have to be, because the way you've laid it out, it's like, you don't have to write a book. Just go to this web page, you guys, and it's so brilliant. I love how it says, here's what to do, here's what not to do to regain your energy. So let's talk about that. I'd love to start there. Yeah,
sure. Thank you. What you said resonated with me. You said, this is how I would do it. If you were starting a company. And once I had that voice in my head, like I have an idea how I would do it, that's when I kind of knew I was ready to start formulating products and, making sure that they were the cleanest, most effective and highest quality. Because I did have that idea as like, well, here's how I would do it. And I think that's a great starting point, especially when you've spent years and years studying the ins and outs of supplements and nutrition and different diets and all these different modalities. yeah, it's good to have people that are focused on quality and efficiency, effectiveness, all that stuff first.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can tell you've
Hmm.
really done your homework and you're a learner, and just the things you put together, reading your blog. I mean, you had a recent blog post about meat that was really cool because like I did carnivore for 4 months knowing full well I wasn't going to do it forever because like you
Hmm.
put in your blog, meat is good for certain things and in certain amounts, but we want to add in all of those other balanced foods to balance the amount of phosphorus and calcium and iron in the meat and stuff like that. So just stuff like that, like you're really well researched and I appreciate that. So you love
Thank you.
bioenergetics. How about this energy restoration process? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I wanted to create, I guess, a blueprint is what is the way I see it, to give to people, to be able to refer people to, so that they have a starting place. And it's not meant to be all inclusive or exclusive or authoritarian in any way. It's kind of like, it's not, it's not a strict protocol. I just wanted to be able to send people there and say, look, I know your life is difficult. Everyone's busy. We're all doing the best we can. And if you really want to get healthy and improve your health in ways that are sustainable, they're not extreme, they're not going to throw you out of balance, then go here, do as much as you can. If you can incorporate everything at first, then that's okay. You'll get there eventually. You know, tick the list off as you go and do one at a time or as much as you can all at once. And um, these are all the things that over the years I've learned are sustainable ways in supporting your overall physiology, which is really what health is about. It's about, and I have in the bullet points in the beginning, in the sort of summary, you want to reduce the toxic accumulations that we've sort of collected over the years. You want to give your body the building blocks that it uses, that it needs to function properly. And then there are, more like sub goals, which are to balance the inflammatory amino acids, like you were saying in meat, with the anti-inflammatory amino acids like collagen and gelatin, to balance the calcium to phosphorus ratio, which is really, really unspoken about in most of, basically every community except for the repeat community. It's the only one that talks about it. And so, yeah, I just wanted to give people a guide that's accessible and not too far over anyone's head. And it's not a strict protocol. So that was my goal behind it. And I'm glad to just sort of give it out for free. And if people want to support me and support themselves, they can buy my products. But yeah, if you want to go into further detail about it, we totally can. But that's sort of the basis of why I did it and what I was thinking.
Yeah. So, I mean, I look at it and I go, geez, I think when people come to me for nutrition, I'm going to refer them to this page because you touch on everything. It's not just the food.
Yeah.
You've got some lifestyle stuff in there. Like I love the red light therapy and the fact that you put in there taking post-meal walks and smaller, more frequent meals, and also blocking the blue light, which I'm all about. So like, it's just a simple page that like, if anybody's listening right now, they can go to lifeblud.co and then they click on energy restoration process. So like you said, it's free. Look up all of these just great tips to add and then things to limit. Like it's such a really well thought out list. I definitely wanted to bring that up on the podcast because there's so much confusion and there's so many schools of thought out there when it comes to like dialing in your nutrition and optimizing your health. And when I went through this page, I was just like, this guy's got it. Like, this is it. It's like all in perfect synchronicity of just like what to do, what to eat, what not to do, what not to eat in simple terms. And don't be dogmatic about it, but just do your best, like you said. So yeah, now tell me about like why you love the smaller, more frequent meals versus the larger, more infrequent meals.
Well, I'm kind of coming from a frame of what what I think the more average person would need. So there's kind of the people that come out of the standard American stuff, and that was sort of my thought of who I'm speaking to. And although I think everyone can benefit from it, there's the other type of people that need our help, which are the ones that come from extreme dieting, like carnivore or vegan or raw vegan. And that's sort of the world I came from. But you can, well, I was thinking about, what is someone who's trashed their metabolism for 20 years, drank coffee before eating every single morning, ate tons of seed oils, tons of iron fortified foods. It's like, what does this person need to stimulate their metabolism? And likely this person isn't going to be storing glycogen well. They probably have, been partying every weekend for their whole lives, like I was. And so their liver's probably not working that well. And for people like that, bigger meals aren't really going to do you very well if the liver isn't storing glycogen. And so you want to basically retrain it by feeding it small amounts of carbohydrate and protein throughout the day, to balance the blood sugar and to basically slowly replenish the glycogen stores in the liver. And the other thing, as you said, I have in there is the 10-minute walks or small walks after a meal. That can do wonders for balancing blood sugar. Absolutely. Yeah. So those are two things that, you don't even have to buy anything. You don't have to change anything. Those are two free tips you can implement today. And right away, your blood sugar will definitely thank you.
Absolutely. And there's this school of thought, I've had feedback from people that say, no, like traditionally humans only ate one big meal a day. They would hunt and gather all day and then have a big meal. So I don't really think we should be eating small frequent meals. We don't live in those times. We live in the modern world where we're surrounded by Wi-Fi and EMF and stressors of all kinds. So our brains are working at a much higher level, using up a lot more glucose, using up a lot more magnesium, using up a lot more energy. So we have to continually feed that body, because we're not living in a little teepee, with our village where our only job is to go out and collect for the evening meal. We live in this world where you've got this text message coming in, this phone call, this family issue, this, drama going on at work, and you've got this deadline, and you've got this whatever. And there's always something. Everybody's always dealing with something, especially now, especially since the pandemic, there's more stress than ever. And so I feel like it really resonates with, like, in this system, we're going to have to take better care of ourselves. And what you've laid out really spells it out in simplistic terms. Like, don't overwhelm yourself. Don't Google every symptom that you have. Just follow something like this energy restoration process and watch yourself slowly transform. It's not maybe going to happen overnight, but you're definitely going to see things moving in the right direction. So I love that. Now, on your list of supplements, you definitely did put in there things like vitamin E and magnesium and even vitamin K, which I love. But you also put methylene blue, which I agree. I think every supplement cabinet should have methylene blue in there. So let's go there. Why methylene blue? What got you into that?
I initially started researching it a few years ago, and I forget where I'd heard of it, honestly, but I just started looking into it, and I was reading paper after paper and reading articles, everything I could find on it, basically. And when you're reading about this substance, I think initially my reaction was like, this is kind of like too good to be true. Like, there has to be a downside to this substance, because especially when you read papers focused on metabolism, like mitochondria, it's just too good. So like you were saying, the brain uses 20% of the total oxygen in the body, and the 25% of all the body's glucose. Methylene blue in small doses is such a nootropic for so many people, just because it simply helps people use energy. It helps the electron flow in the mitochondria. And so when you think about it from that perspective, that's its main function. It has this overarching systemic effect that's not just, it doesn't just target one area of your physiology. It's helps the entire system because you are literally flowing electrically. You're creating energy in a more optimized way because things like pollutants, things like unsaturated fats, like pesticides, like the things from the environment that are, you know, post-industrial pollutants, like Tomo Littlewood. These things all block mitochondrial respiration. They block electron flow, you know, poisoning like from cyanide and carbon monoxide. These are metabolic poisons, and they block, like I said, they block electron flow, and methylene blue is a cheat code. And what it does is it's able to bypass the blockage, whatever the poison, you know, wherever the poison is in the mitochondria, it's able to take electrons and just pass it along the electron transport chain right to the end where oxygen becomes water. And that's where ATP is created. And I think it's this process with ATP and water and electrons, which is the entirety of the energy process. It's probably not just ATP, but it's this entire sort of electrical water system that we're getting after, which is what when we're talking about energy, I think that's what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of danced around that one, but
no, I love it because to me, methylene blue is kind of like the coffee to our cells, not in the caffeine sense, but in the sense that if you're a coffee drinker like I am, I love coffee and it makes me happy. I don't need it for energy. I've got plenty of energy, but I love it. And I feel like methylene blue is something you could live your whole life without, but why when it would make your cells so happy, right? So it's like, I can live without coffee, but why? Because there's so many other benefits to having the coffee. And that's what I feel like methylene blue is. It's something that is controversial because it was a pharmaceutical drug. And so that's where I get kicked back from people about like, well, it's, you know, it's not natural. But at the same time, maybe you can speak to the fact that it was something that was actually a known cure for issue. It was actually one of the pharmaceutical drugs that actually cured something.
Yeah, so for those who don't know what it is at all, it's the first ever man-made medicine, and so it's from 1876, and it actually came from the textile industry. It's a blue dye, and they started using it. Well, especially a man named Paul Ehrlich started using it in different lab settings as he was studying, and they found that it was especially relevant in malaria, and it was a malaria drug that they would use, and they sent you know, tons of it with the Allied forces in the World War and stuff. So it was initially a malaria drug, and over, I guess, 100 plus years of studying it, we realized that it had so many different properties, like it could clear UTIs. It has clinical approved use for methemoglobinemia, which is a condition where the blood is not carrying oxygen, the hemoglobin. And so that's like when the blood is completely blue, actually. And so it turns it into blood that's red, which is blood that's carrying oxygen. It's the only antidote for that issue, as well as cyanide poisoning and carbon monoxide poisoning. And that's what I was referring to when I'm talking about those poisonings specifically shut off the electron transport chain, and they completely stop the cell from breathing. And so those are clinically approved uses for methylene blue. And its main function is an alternative electron transporter. So that means it donates and receives electrons when oxygen is unavailable to do so. So oxygen is the primary electron acceptor, but things that block oxygen, like the poisons, like the unsaturated fats, etc., these cause blockages in our cell. Methylene blue is able to get into the cell and restore the electron flow. So it basically, like, in soccer, like a great midfielder who can pass the ball back and forth between all the other players that maybe aren't the best passers. And then it can pass to the ball to the striker, who is then able to score, which is oxygen becoming water and ATP.
I love that. And how about the precursor to hydroxychloroquine? Like, isn't it kind of the chemical that was before kind of led into hydroxychloroquine?
Yeah, it's like the parent chemical. And I guess one of the main reasons that most people have never heard of methylene blue in any significant fashion is because it's not patentable. And so what ends up happening is you'll have companies that will synthesize another chemical from the parent chemical, which in this case is methylene blue, so that they can patent it, so that big pharmaceutical companies can sell it, etc. And so that's a big reason why it's suppressed. That's why it's not revered in a massive light the way it should be. But yeah, it's used to synthesize that. Mark Sloan says it's used to synthesize ivermectin. I haven't really looked into that so much, but it has similar functions. These are, like HCQ is a quinine, so it does the same sort of redox interaction, which is the donating and receiving of electrons.
You hit a hot spot with me. I like ivermectin. So when you say synthesize ivermectin, like it actually makes it perform better in the body?
No, sorry. He's saying that it comes from methylene blue as well.
Really?
Yeah. And I haven't verified that myself, but that's in the Mark Sloan book, The Ultimate Guide to Methylene Blue.
I wonder if that's the pill form, since from what I understand of the actual paste form, it's actually a mold that they've grown in Japan on soil organisms. And that's why dogs and cats actually go out and eat vegetation, because they want trace amounts of this ivermectin that helps them throw up and get rid of the parasites. So, yeah.
Yeah, that could be. I always thought it was strange. I always thought of more the HCQ connection when I think about these other ones. But yeah, I always thought it was a bit strange that he said that. But
I like all
just wanted to throw it out there.
So that's cool. Now, it has antiviral properties. So, I mean, there really is some studies that can link it to helping with viruses as well.
Yeah. And, it's known as a bactericidal, fungicidal as well. And I have a bit of a different perspective on that. When you think of why bacteria and fungus and parasites exist, I see them likely as part of the resolution of what is dying tissue, tissue that's not receiving oxygen, that's not receiving nutrients, that's been poisoned in some way and is now breaking down. And bacteria and fungus are what arise in order to sort of decompose and recycle and clean up that tissue and return it back to the elements, back to nature. And so when you have tissue that's able to be reoxygenated and renutrified, it stops decaying, it stops dying, and therefore the need for things like fungus and bacteria go away, and then the body stops producing them. And so you could see that as antibacterial, or you can see it as restoring the oxygen, the actual nutritive environment that the tissue is supposed to have.
See, another thing we have in common is I'm very Pollyanna. I like to find the positive. So I like your spin on it, because it's like, it's not about kill, kill, kill. It's about re-oxygenate and create the proper environment for a body to heal as it was designed to.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, it just provides a different sort of perspective on what, why bacteria is and why it's there, and sort of why things that help it, why do they help it, and what is that whole mechanism, right? And so you can see it as a different, right? Most people see the bacteria as the culprit, and you need to go after that and kill it and get rid of it. But I'd like to take it one step further back and say, well, no, it actually has a function. Your body is intelligent, and it's trying to heal itself, and it's doing, it's always doing its best to perform a resolution. Yeah, so that's the way I see it.
Now we're living in a world with, after the pandemic, there seems to be a lot of mental health issues. And I noticed all of the studies on antidepressive, I guess, modalities, if you will, for methylene blue. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Like we said earlier, the brain uses 20% of the overall oxygen and 25% of all glucose. And I think the main reason why people get a nootropic feeling, which is, a boost in mental energy, a boost in focus, attention, mood increase, happiness. I think the entire, attribute, or what we can attribute that to, is the increase in energy, the energy supply to the brain. And so methylene blue is able to, access the mitochondria in the brain, because there's no blood-brain barrier. So it's able to access the mitochondria in the brain and help them use oxygen and create energy better. And so the brain is uptaking more glucose, it's creating water from oxygen, the energy is flowing better. And then all of a sudden the person can think better, feel better, better mood. And I've had, hundreds of testimonials of people relieving their depression, anxiety, mental clarity, focus, all other treatment-resistant brain fog, mood disorders, epileptic seizures, all these types of things. I've had, people get great results just from taking, up to 20 drops, 30 drops of methylene blue. And it's because the brain now has access to a way more efficient form of energy creation, when it was being blocked by toxic accumulations, pollutants, over and over again. I'll just keep saying the same points because I think it's so important, right? The seed oils, the omega-3s, and so forth.
Well, and I heard you talk on a podcast too about you're a kindred spirit in that you look up at the skies and you see the grid patterns they're spraying in the skies. Nobody else is talking about this other than maybe the geoengineeringwatch.org guy, but like, I'm trying to get the word out that if people will look up, something is going on. I mean, it's April 18th as we record this, and there are no leaves on my trees in the Midwest. Like, why is everything slowing down? Why are the trees dying? Why do you look up in the skies and there's not puffy clouds, there's lines? And so I heard you talk about it as well. And so I wanted you to speak to what you know and what you can share, because I'm trying to get more people to understand this.
I like how you say that. You mentioned the look up thing. And I think there's like sort of a double meaning to that phrase. You have like the popular movie that was just out, Don't Look Up, with Leonardo DiCaprio. And I think it has a double meaning. One is like, don't look up at the sky, but it's also don't look up anything. Don't look up anything on the internet. Don't think for yourself, right? Just trust us, trust the experts, your government agencies, and we'll handle it. You just keep looking down at your phone
Exactly. That's what I mean by looking up, is like that's
Yeah.
where they want us to be looking, and I'm not doing it. Like I see it and you do too.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I like to post about it. Obviously, I don't like to stress and bring fear and those types of feelings about it, but it is important for people to know that it's going on. And I think the more that we at least talk about it openly, the more that we can eventually make a wave on saying, okay, enough is enough. I mean, I'm hoping one day we can get the climate activists looking up, because if they were on the streets marching against the geoengineering, then I'd support them. But instead, they're marching against meat, and so yeah, I think the more we talk about it, the more we point it out, eventually it'll lead towards a resolution. Uh, and it's funny. I mean, that just been Easter weekend, Holy Week here in Mexico, and there's tons of celebration here. They were spraying all week long, and go out this morning. Obviously, Easter's done. It's just like, oh, okay, blue sky again.
Same
Not
here.
a single,
Same here.
not a single trace.
Exactly the same weather. And I'm in the Midwest and you're in Mexico. So it's not like we were in the same
Mm-hmm.
vicinity. So that's interesting. And, obviously they're spraying something. Do we know what it is to the full extent? No. But in the meantime, is anything
Mm-hmm.
like methylene blue, is that going to help us detox any of this, whatever they are spraying out of our system? Does it offer any properties for heavy metals?
It helps against all types of, or most types of poisoning, because most poisons are, they create a metabolic disturbance.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was saying before, that it's the cheat code, the sort of workaround to having your metabolic process inhibited by a poison, whether it be cyanide or something that's in the air being sprayed. To be able to restore the energy process that it's inhibiting is going to greatly help your body do what it needs to do in terms of, as it's trying to move things along. Your body wants to package things that it has no physiological function for, and that don't serve the body. It wants to package these things and excrete them out of the body. This is the so-called immune system, even though it's not immunity. It's collecting the things that we don't need, that don't serve us, and getting them out of us. But that's an energy dependent process. And so when the poisoning accumulates, it's kind of like, I don't know, good analogy, but it makes it harder and harder for that whole process to occur, the more that there is poisoning. And so methylene blue is a great way to sort of help yourself get back on your feet while you work on your metabolism, while you work on the energy restoration process, while you work on all your different behaviors and all that kind of stuff. So I do think it can help, for sure.
That's good news because,
Mm-hmm.
well, and I can talk about this because I'm already in YouTube jail, so it doesn't matter because I just post this on audio for now. But
Mm-hmm.
with Dr. McCullough recently came on and shared that there is some evidence now showing up with the vaccines that they're hurting people, that more and more people are having vaccine injuries later on after they've been vaccinated. And so I'm wondering, maybe methylene blue, to the same extent like you were talking, can improve the scenario of detoxing the vaccine out of the system before it causes harm.
I would definitely be using that among other things, if I were to have done something like that. Now I don't know exactly what's in these things, but I don't know if anyone knows. But it is clear that they're causing harm, and especially when the blood is involved, if we're talking about blood clots and that kind of thing, that's when it's going to be very, very important, because it's essentially, we're talking about blood flow, blood carrying oxygen. These are sort of major benefits of methylene blue, and if they're being inhibited by a mystery substance, I think I would 100% say it's a good idea to, at the very least, give your body a hand with some methylene blue so that it can keep the oxygen flow going and try to detox whatever is going on there.
Awesome. And so that must mean that's why you call it LIfeBlud, the company. Is that where it comes from? Is basically premised around the methylene blue, or was there another reason for the name LIfeBlud?
It was just something I thought of actually before I knew I was going to sell methylene blue. My first goal was magnesium.
Okay.
And it was just the first thing I thought of. I'm not a super artistic or creative person. And so I just kind of ran with it. I was just like, I'm not going to spend any more time on this. And so let's go with it.
I like it because the blood is what moves us. You know, it is our life force. It's our life essence. And so we want to protect it. We want to take care of it. And I think a lot of the things you've put together are really smart to help the blood flow more optimally. To that extent, like, does it improve circulation? Would you say that methylene blue can improve anybody with a circulatory issue?
I think so. I mean, I guess a question would be, what is a circulation issue? Is it, are we talking about blood pressure, or is it that, I guess the question is, why isn't the blood flowing to certain areas? And we would probably start there. But if there's low energy in, let's say, your body is not producing energy optimally, it's likely going to sacrifice things like, let's say, your hair, or maybe supplying blood to your fingers or your toes. And once you restore that energy process, then it will probably stop sacrificing your, warming up your fingers, sending nutrients to your fingers, your toes, to your hair. And likely the circulation is going to keep running again, because again, like I said before, the body's intelligent. It's always going to want to do everything it can with the cards that it's been dealt to try and heal you. And so if whatever is happening in your life is resulting in a very low amount of energy being produced, then it's likely going to sacrifice the least important things, or at least in the order of intelligence that it knows is not as important.
That's brilliant. I mean, really, the body's been designed to heal. We just got to give it the proper conditions to do so. So now, what about with red light therapy? You hear a lot about taking methylene blue and using red light therapy, which I happen to love, but I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the dose is everything. And I think there are some studies that use red light and UV light both to kill certain types of cells, whether it be bacteria or cancer cells. And they've had success in doing that using methylene blue and UV and red light. So you could take some and go out in the sun, or use your red light device at home. And those would be both some beneficial therapies. The one thing is, I mean, I never advocate for super high dosing anyways, but if you were to take like 2 to 3 milligrams per kilogram of body weight, which is in the range of clinical dosing, it can actually have sort of a negative effect when you go in the light. And so it can start to break down, blood vessels and tissues and stuff. Methylene blue has a hormetic dose, which at very, very large doses, which is probably like you'd have to take 2 bottles of repair at once, then you could start to see some very, oxidative type effects happening, and basically causes the opposite effect of what lower doses cause or help with.
So like all good things, everything in moderation. And you call it repair. I have a bottle here that's the repair. Why repair? For obvious reasons, like we've been talking, the whole ability to help the body repair.
Exactly. Yeah. It is the the mitochondrial reparation, right? That's what it is. And that's the way I see it. It's
Yeah.
sort of a recalibration for your cells after however many decades of, not treating them optimally.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's such an amazing tool for people to have to sort of help them reset and repair their cells and restore the whole energy process. And that's 100% why I thought of that name.
I love it. Now, what about with fat loss or weight loss? Have you seen any anecdotal evidence or anybody like really notice their body weight shift in a good direction after starting it?
Yeah, someone messaged me like 2 days ago, actually. Might have even been yesterday. They said after their second pregnancy, they started taking it, and she had lost, like, she said she lost 15 pounds, I think, in about 2 months, something like that. Yeah, and she said her system was basically rebalancing, and she was experiencing a great effect from it. I mean, it's not a weight loss weight loss forward drug, but
It could be.
the body being able to, exactly, it can be, like I was saying, it has such a broad spectrum of use. The body being able to use the glucose that you give it through your diet and stuff is what's going to be the major difference between you gaining weight and you actually converting that into heat, into CO2, into electrons, into water,
Mm-hmm.
which is not a process that adds weight to you. Adds life. It adds, all the good things.
I can attest to that because in fact, people can look back at my YouTube videos of like 2017, and that was when I was going through mold toxicity. And I started taking methylene blue like about halfway into my mold exposure. And I had put on weight that I couldn't get off due to the high estrogen from the mold. And as soon as I started taking methylene blue, it came off. So
Wow.
there were other things I was doing after that, but I had initially started that. And I really attribute it to what you were talking about. Like my body was able to kind of go back to homeostasis because it had the oxygen to be able to do so after the toxicity. So, and it helped me clear the toxicity as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, it was definitely something that I saw firsthand. Another thing I've seen is I had a client who had skin cancer on her chest for 5 years. It didn't go away. She's been to every doctor, would just kind of get a little bit bigger, but it wasn't a deadly kind. It was just one that wouldn't go away. And I just said, here's the bottle, put it on there. Within 2 weeks, it was gone. And I'm talking like,
wow, topically
was left. Yeah, topical. She had a little blue spot for 2 weeks, and the blue spot kept getting smaller. She would send me pictures, and she keeps a bottle of it on hand now because nothing else worked. And so
wow.
It's a true testament to the fact that it's got potent anti-tumor and anti-cancer properties too. So
yeah, that's incredible. And that may reaffirm the Pete notion that cancer is a metabolic disease, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's the same thing goes with mold. If you think about why mold only grows in an environment that is suitable for mold growth, right? It's sort of light deprived, it's moist, it's warm, it doesn't grow if it's too hot or too cold. It's kind of these certain conditions that allow for the mold growth. And once you remove those conditions, obviously it stops growing. And when that's in the body and you remove those conditions in the area that your body is allowing it to proliferate or at least live, you remove the conditions and then the body is able to clear it. And just recently as well, I've had plenty of people come to me with testimonials on nebulizing methylene blue.
Oh, okay. Haven't done this yet. Now I'm gonna have to do that.
Yeah, so people who have had their smell or their taste or smell sort of singed off by whatever's going on now, nebulizing methylene blue up to 2 to 6 drops really, and the rest is water. in the nebulizer has done wonders for people. Not just that, but also with sinus infections and asthma. So if I had any sort of respiratory issues, if I smoked cigarettes for, a long time, I would, that's definitely practice that I would get into.
Yeah, actually, during the whole like uptick in cases in COVID, like I was doing the nebulizer, but I was using like betadine, povidone, betadine, iodine, and like hydrogen peroxide. But I made a nasal spray with like a little bit of peppermint oil and some saline, and then the methylene blue, just like a drop or two. And I was squirting that up there as a preventative because I thought, well, why not? It's good for everything. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to it. Now, as far as like contraindications, anybody listening to this that might be thinking, can I take this? Like, is there anybody that's listening that should be cautious when considering it?
So the main contraindication, one is a G6PD deficiency. So that's a rare enzyme deficiency. It's glucose 6-phosphate. And I'm not exactly sure what, there's not a ton of specificity of why it doesn't work with that. It must be a way that, something that has to do with the metabolism of it, even though it's not really metabolized. And so that's why I don't get it. But anyways, that's one. The other one is people that are on SSRIs. So like Prozac, Zoloft. Yeah, very unfortunate that anyone would be on those. But if you're on those, and really the risk is still small, especially in the doses that we talk about. But there are basically like 5 cases or so that are documented where someone was on SSRIs in anesthesia and they were having surgery, and in the surgery they IV'd like 100 milligrams of methylene blue, and they had serotonin syndrome. And so really the real issue is the SSRI. The methylene blue is a very mild MAOA inhibitor at high doses. And so it is a low risk, but there are people that have serotonin issues and they have compromised guts and stuff, and so that can cause a similar effect. People take 5-HTP, and so I wouldn't necessarily mix 5-HTP just in case. But if typically it's the SSRI is like the main and only contraindication.
Yeah. And so maybe they want to work with their practitioner about coming off the SSRI. And then once they're stabilized, trying the methylene blue as their form of help, because it actually could do more than the SSRI ever did, So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the serotonin, it will be pushing the body into that sort of a hibernation, learned helplessness type mode, where it's actually an energy suppressant, whereas the methylene blue will do the opposite. It'll move you towards a more pro-dopamine, energy efficient type of person. And so that's definitely where you want to be. That's where you can be the most happy and the most joy-seeking. Yeah,
I was going to ask if it had some pro-dopamine effects, and it sounds like it does. And then also like if it interacts with, like if it's more proliferative with sunlight, I mean, those two in tandem are really going to make somebody feel a lot better than an SSRI will. So
yeah, definitely. I think, well, Ray Pete was recently on the One Radio Network. I think his most recent episode, and they asked him about methylene blue, and he said, he usually doesn't even talk that highly of it, but this time he did. And he said, even half a milligram is enough sometimes to rise people instantly out of a depression. That's what he said.
Yeah, it's good to hear him say that. Yeah, because I have asked him before, and he just seemed to like not really approach the issue with very much enthusiasm. So yeah. Great. No, I mean, this is really informative. I hope people will really dive into methylene blue and trying it for themselves, as long as, like you said, they're not on an SSRI and things like that, because I can't speak to it enough. I mean, even I don't know what people will think about when they hear that I have given it to my 7-year-old, but it got her on the other side of a pretty bad cold really quickly. So, and I just put it 1 drop in her orange juice and it was amazing. So
I've had many testimonials of mothers saying the same thing. You know, their kid sick, getting sick, had a cough for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, wouldn't go away. 1 drop, 2 drops for a few days, and all of a sudden they're way better. And I've had it with people giving it to their dogs, their chickens, you name it. And so it's very, very safe, especially in the doses that we talk about, and very, very effective.
You'll be hard pressed to go on PubMed or any other study research forum and find not like something negative about it. It's very hard to find anything where it hasn't helped to many different degrees. So
doing my due diligence, I actually went on there and I went all over, you know, as many papers as I could look for. I tried to find bad info on it, like, you know, is it toxic? Is it have withdrawal? Does it create dependence? Does it create tolerance? And, you know, I try to look for all these different things, and there's nothing there. The main thing is the serotonin, high dose. And I was like, wow, well, you know, I have to sell this. I have to get this to people. It's too good.
Well, I'm so glad you did too, because like I said, I can taste a difference in the quality. You can almost taste the pure. It's almost like a mild sweet, but it's not quite sweet. You know what I mean? Like, and I've tasted some others where I'm like, there's clearly like some sort of heavy metal in this or something. And I mean, I've even gone so far to compare to the fish tank methylene blue. Yes, I did. I tested the Cordon, you know, whatever brand it is, the tank store, because I was desperate one time on a trip. I forgot my methylene blue, and that's the only place I could get it. And I couldn't take it after that, because like clearly putting that in my mouth, I'm like, I'm doing more harm than good. So yeah, truth be told, like the taste will actually, and there's nothing else in it. Like I'm not tasting anything else. It's just, you can taste the purity of it.
Thank you for pioneering that one with the fish tank one.
Took one for the team. So
yeah, thank you.
Let's shift now to magnesium, because just can speak to the fact that there's lots of magnesiums out there, but not all of them are absorbable. And you really need a couple things to really make them work well in the body.
Yeah. So I have the 2 magnesium products, and the one we're talking about is Mag Plus, which is my capsule form, and it's magnesium glycinate and magnesium taurate, and so with each pill, you know, those are 2 amino acid bound forms of magnesium, and with each pill, you're getting 200 milligrams of both glycine and taurine, and 100 milligrams of magnesium, elemental magnesium it's called by weight. So the amino acid bound forms are, the amino acid is more of the weight than is the magnesium, just by the way that it is. It's the 2 molecules of, let's say, glycine attached to magnesium. And so there are so many different forms of magnesium out there, oxide, citrate, carbonate, etc. And a lot of them have harmful properties, but these ones, you get the benefit of taking the magnesium, and you get the benefit of taking, in the case of glycine, an anti-inflammatory amino acid, and taurine is the same. It's an energy promoting anabolic amino acid. And so I think, you know, it really is the perfect formulation in terms of a capsule form, and the benefits of glycine are massive. You know, and people, especially ones that eat a lot of muscle meat, are probably deficient or not getting enough glycine to support their system. I mean, it's important to have bone broth and collagen, like the whole food source of collagen, but having extra glycine, you know, can do wonders in the body.
I mean, the fact that it has the taurinate too, you don't always find that blend as well. So
Mhm. Yeah, especially not together. I think that's super important.
And why is magnesium so important to the human body? Like that's another one that I really feel like everybody should have in their supplement closet. Like I wish I could just say on my voicemail of my phone, like stop the gluten, take magnesium, go out in the
Yeah.
sun. And if nothing improves, then
Oh,
then come see me, you know, like
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
go outside and take magnesium. So
Yeah, magnesium is the first thing I recommend to people when, talking about supplementation and
mhm.
going back to the energy process. Magnesium is so critical in that process. It's always bound to ATP, so it's magnesium ATP is the molecule. It's not just ATP the way we talk about it. It's MgATP.
Mhm.
And so that is a massively important part of reducing oxygen into water and heat and CO2 is to have the magnesium there available to bind to the ATP. And if it's not available, the ATP is not usable. It's wasted. So that's very important. And talking about the flow of electricity, I always talk about electrolytes. And magnesium could be the most important electrolyte. You have sodium, potassium, calcium, all very important. But this is what creates the voltage and the polarity and the flow of electricity in our bodies that interacts with light and water. So we're talking about carrying energy through us. It's an electrical process. It's not a mechanical process where we're have pumps and tubes and we're pushing things. No, it's actually done with these metals and light and voltage and magnetism. And so having enough of the electrolytes is the catalyst of energy and overall function, of our bodies. And magnesium runs, this is kudos to Morley Robbins, runs almost half of the enzymatic processes in our body. And these enzymes are what facilitate all these different electrical biochemical reactions in us. And magnesium is burnt through stress, through sweating, through all these different things. When you get into an argument online, these are huge magnesium wasting processes, and getting it through your diet is quite difficult. And for those that say you can get enough in your diet, I encourage you to go on Chronometer and type in your food every single day, and you can tell me how many milligrams of magnesium you're getting. Because there is an argument that would say we should get it from water, like primary sources of water in mountains or springs that are rich in bicarbonate, magnesium bicarbonate, which is formed through the leaching of a mineral rock called brucite. And brucite would leach slowly magnesium hydroxide into the water, and the magnesium hydroxide reacts with the atmospheric carbon dioxide, and that reaction creates magnesium bicarbonate, and that would be in a primary water source that's prized and clean and not polluted. And I don't think anyone is drinking from any of those as well. So there's an argument to say your primary magnesium source is missing.
Oh, yeah. Well, and especially I appreciate that you mentioned the burn rate, because we do burn through it so quickly. Like I have people that go, well, no, I think I take enough. I take 300 a day. And I'm like, are you on a computer all day? Are you around Wi-Fi all day? Do you have your smartphone in your pocket? Are you stressed at all? Because are you around 5G towers? Can you look outside and see a cell phone tower? Like all of this is burning our magnesium away. And like you said, we're not getting it from food. So really a smart thing for someone to do who wants to optimize their health is just have a really good source of magnesium that you're taking daily. And if you feel symptoms of like, the leg cramps and the eye twitching and the inability to go to the bathroom, all of those are magnesium deficiency. So just the act of taking it daily is going to keep you. I mean, I can't tell you how many clients I have that all I do is put them on magnesium and they think it's magic because they can go poop, So it's
exactly.
It's not magic, it's magnesium. So like it should be a shirt, a t-shirt. But anyway,
it's just about replenishing the body with what it needs. And like you said, the EMFs cause, and there's an electrical and a magnetic sort of process that happens there with the calcium and calcium, to enter the cell, and magnesium is used to, it's burnt to try and push the calcium back out of the cell. So you have calcium flooding in, and magnesium has its function in your body to go into the cell and essentially, magnetically push the calcium out where it should be outside the cell. The magnesium should be inside the cell. And so the more EMFs you're exposed to, the more of that issue you're going to be having, the more magnesium you'll need to remediate it.
Yeah. So going back to that energy restoration process. So like I said, you have magnesium on there, you have those small frequent meals, like all of those are going to replenish your system after somebody who's been online all day working, or, in my case, like when I do podcasts, I have to immediately go outside and ground afterwards and calm myself down. But I also make sure that I take magnesium, I take methylene blue, and I take all of these things to help replenish my system. Because as you mentioned, it's like we just have to do our due diligence when we're living in this modern world. So that's what these things are helping us with. And you have a lot of great products on your site that I'm going to have you back on so we can talk about benfotiamine, because that's one of my favorite things too. But where can people find you? Let's talk about the website. And then if they want to reach out to you on social media, if you're on there, what's that look like?
Yeah, I post a lot of stories on my personal Instagram. It's just at Adam Marafioti. And my business Instagram is at LIfeBlud CO, LIfeBlud CO. And my website is lifeblood.co. And that's where you can find me.
Yeah. And I'll have a special little code for you guys. Check out the show notes. I'll have all the links in there that he mentioned. Now, the last question I have to ask every one of my guests, because it's kind of my thing now, is like Audrey Hepburn has a quote that says, I believe that every day should have at least one exquisite moment. So Adam, what is your exquisite moment today?
My exquisite moment today. Well, I got an amazing delivery of goods from a woman in Mexico City that knows of my products, and I gave her 3 methylene blues, and she gave me some extra bone broth. And she gave me she does some fermented sriracha and sauerkraut, and she does amazing bone broth and raw milk. So I got an awesome delivery from her. She's great. And she's hosting a health conference out here at the end of May with Chris Masterjohn and Joel Salatin.
Very cool.
So that was an exquisite moment today.
I love that. And I love that you guys traded. Like there's not a lot in the world of trade anymore. So I love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Adam. This has been fun. And I hope to have you back on because like I said, you have more products I want to mention because it's really stuff that will help your LIfeBlud flow better. So
yeah,
you guys check it out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Hey out there, are you in the Midwest and do you love stand-up paddleboarding as much as I do? Well, then you're going to want to join me June 4th right here on Table Rock Lake in the Midwest for Paddle Fit certification. That's right. Have you always wanted to teach others on the water? Well, then you can come out June 4th and learn how to do that. Or maybe you just want to hone in on your own paddle skills and become a more efficient paddler. If that's the case, join me June 4th. You can check out paddlefitpro.com to learn more. That's paddlefitpro.com to learn more and to sign up for this one-day on-the-water training that is super fun, super fit, and you get a lot of sunshine as well. So I'll see you on the water. Hey guys, are you in the Midwest Are you in the East Coast? Are you in Brazil? Are you in Asia? It doesn't matter where you are. I would love to work with you as your nutritionist. And so just to let you know, I offer nutrition consulting worldwide. You can work with me anywhere. I have clients all over the world, and I love to spend time over the internet with each one of them, figuring out their specific needs. So your specific needs, what deficiencies are you having? What symptoms are you dealing with daily that we can address for you? So that's what I, as a nutrition detective, like to get to the bottom of. I ask you a ton of questions. We meet over Zoom or over FaceTime, whatever is convenient for you, and we discuss all of your specific needs. If you would like to work with me, just shoot me an email, getfitwithjodelle@gmail.com. That's getfit, getfitwithjodelle@gmail.com, and let's set up a 15-minute free call for you just to see if I'm a good fit for you as a nutrition therapy practitioner. Again, email me getfitwithjodelle@gmail.com, and let's get you set up feeling better, lose that unwanted weight that you have going on, lose those symptoms that you have hanging around, and optimize your health as best we can.